Hi, I'm Bob Dixon. Welcome to the Leader's Edge Hot Takes edition of the Five Eagles Insight Podcast. For over 3 decades, I served in the military as an engineer and as a strategist, and I learned a few things about leadership. We know that it goes beyond theory. It's about real-world application. So in this series, sponsored by Five Eagles Leadership, we feature industry leaders and share their leadership journeys with you. My mission's simple. It's to help you become the best leader you can be. Now, if that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to be considered as a guest in upcoming episodes, please go to 5eaglesleadership.com/interview and apply today. Now, let's get started.
Hi, welcome to Leader's Edge. I'm with Matt Williams. He's in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I believe, and he is the CEO of Duke City Inspections. Matt, thanks for being here.
Hey, Bob. Thanks for having me on the show today.
What a great opportunity to talk to somebody who also has a podcast. So you
That's
do
true.
more than just home inspections. You're kind of into a lot of different things, and I want to explore a little bit of that today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I actually I've owned 12 different companies. This time last year, I had 4 different companies, 75 employees, plus a podcast and a speaking business and coaching. Over the last little stretch, I've actually been shutting down anything in my life that isn't congruent with where I want to go in the next chapter of my life. And so I sold my construction business. I shut down my gym. I just got rid of my moving company. I'm keeping my home inspection company, which is thriving. And that's like the easiest one for me to run and operate as far as day-to-day operations. My podcast has been picking up some steam. That's led to more speaking, more coaching, helping other entrepreneurs, especially in the space of mental health and entrepreneurship. That's kind of a niche that I've been going through. So that's kind of what's been going on with me over the last stretch. Big kind of recalibration season in life. I'm sure, Bob, you've had those too, haven't you?
I've had quite a few of those, as a matter of fact. I think the most difficult, the biggest change in my life was retiring from the military and trying to figure out what the heck am I supposed to do with the rest of my life. And the crises of identity when you leave something that's that totally consuming of your life is really disconcerting. So the fact that you are, helping entrepreneurs with mental health, I think is an incredible niche. I want to pull on that string. I want to hear about your inspection business that's doing well, but the entrepreneurship and mental health piece I think is fascinating. How did you end up focusing on that?
Yes, well, so which is kind of wild is I actually used to be a pastor of a church. That was one of the many things that I was doing in life. I grew up on it. My dad was a pastor. And so I was in ministry, if you will, for a long time. And in that season, I really grew to love helping people and finding, helping people through their struggles and their challenges and encouraging people. That's something I really loved doing. The spiritual leader side of it was really difficult for me. I'm not going to lie. I'm a business guy. I'm an entrepreneur. I've always kind of had that going. Preaching and doing the things on the side, or the church thing was always like kind of a fun side project for me. But I really love that, and I love that I can apply kind of like helping other people grow in their own walk and what they're doing in life and being everything that they've been designed and maybe called or just feel called or compelled to do is something I've always been part of. And mental health with entrepreneurship, I went through my own crisis, if you will, and it really forced me to have to dig deep and deal with some things. And I realized there's a lot of men that do that, and we as men we suffer in silence. We're culturally we're conditioned to that. It's like, are you doing okay, buddy? I'm doing great. Are you? No, we're not. But we don't say that out loud, do we? We tough it up and we buckle down and try to get through it. So that kind of got me going on that. I talk about mind monsters. There's about 8 monsters every one of us are facing all the time. Things like anger and anxiety, and there's a lot of them, and so diving deep and helping people like name their monster and or the ones they're dealing with and how to fight it and how to be able to win that battle. Once you win the battle in the mind, it starts to really manifest out everywhere else in life.
No doubt about it. I think the self-awareness piece, that the component. As a leadership coach, that's a business I started after I got out of the military. Was for a lot of the same reasons, as I found it very rewarding helping other people figure out how to be better at what it is that they want to do.
Yeah.
But the self-awareness piece is always what comes up first. It's always about, not just who you are and what your strengths and weaknesses are and whether or not you're an introvert or extrovert, fine. Those are important, but what are you struggling with and why? Yeah. Like, what are those? I love how you label them monsters. I haven't used that term, but there are a number of things that people continuously struggle with, and if they don't face them directly, they'll continue to struggle with them indefinitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's fantastic that you. So, how do you go about helping people identify their monsters and deal with them?
Well, so yeah, I do a little bit of coaching, and some speaking from stage. I'm doing something that I've never done before in a business setting, but I actually have a men's retreat coming up in December. It's already sold out, full of entrepreneurs, and we're going into a 3-day deep dive workshop, going in and talking about the monsters that we deal with and some of the things that we have to do to overcome them. And so that's kind of a fun thing. So I think I have 25 business owners flying out to Scottsdale. We've got some space at a resort there, and we're going to go dive deep for a few days, have a lot of fun, but also do some deep work and just kind of sort through, like, what are these things that we bump up against all the time? Sometimes it's even subconsciously we're bumping up against these growth barriers or these walls in our life. Why do I keep walking around the same mountain over and over and over again? We all do it. We find ourselves stuck, and you almost need like a moment to set aside, get with a group of other men who are also, and I really focus on men. I'm not saying women can't or be part of something like this, but that's not what I do. And so I focus on men and men coming together and saying, all right, I keep bumping up against the same thing over and over again. How do I get past this? And I think it happens in a group setting. I think it's not just a me problem, it's a we problem. And when we come together and as men and talk about it, we start to give each other wisdom and insights. And, well, have you considered this? What about that? And I have a whole process that we use for that. And so I'm doing my first men's retreat in this format in Scottsdale in December here, 2024. If it goes well, I'm hoping to start doing them on a regular basis all around the country.
That's fantastic. I agree with you that the advantage of group settings, particularly when you have people who are roughly the same level and have some similar life experiences.
Yep. And they're not in the same city, right? So agreed. You don't have to you can get real honest with somebody when you know, like, everybody's getting honest. We're not going to see each other again necessarily. And, and it's like, man, I can tell you some of the crap I'm really dealing with because you're not going to be in my market telling my competitors anything. You know what I mean? Like, you can get real honest in that setting. And I think that I'm really hoping that that's what can happen out of this.
There's some incredible advantages to looking across the campfire, if you will, and saying, okay, there's somebody who's struggling with the exact same thing I'm struggling with, or something close enough. I thought I was the only one.
Yeah. If you live in isolation with your struggles, you think you're the only one. And you think nobody else is dealing with this, and I have it harder than everybody else. And the truth is, we're all dealing with stuff. We're all wrestling and fighting through stuff that is unseen battles, man. And we're all wrestling through that. I know we came in to talk about my inspection business, and we've totally sidetracked here. But
now we're here to talk about leadership, and the business is just one of the things you're leading. So this is way more interesting. And no offense to your home inspection business, because I'm sure it's fantastic. But it's about you're leading men in this case to be better.
Yeah.
And to me, that's kind of my life purpose as well. I don't focus exclusively on men. I focus on small business leaders. Mm-hmm. But the ability to help people unlock their potential, whether it's in business or it's in life, I think they tend to overlap, right? Business and life, because the same things that are holding you back personally are also holding you back at work.
Yeah, I think everything rises and falls on leadership. And if you're a good leader, then that's going to show up at home, it's going to show up at work, it's going to show up everywhere in your life.
Yeah. I think some of the major skill sets that you have as a great leader transcends exactly that, and it's things like listening, like truly listening, right? Not just hearing people talk, but hearing what they're saying,
Yeah.
right? Truly listening, and patience, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And,
Those
and
qualities are so important.
incredibly important. I think there's also a wisdom piece that comes with some experience and the ability to listen and ability to understand from other people's perspectives.
Yeah.
And maybe most importantly, or as importantly for leadership, is understanding how you're being perceived by others.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the way we think we're being perceived is different than how others see us.
Yes, and so there's a humility that it takes to be able to get the feedback that you need to understand how you're being perceived. That I think is incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what a fascinating walk you've had, man. This is great. So when you're looking for people to help, what is your ideal client like? Like I know it's men, but you mentioned entrepreneurs and business owners. What can you define that for me, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's been business owners is what's really been my clicking point. Small business owners typically, I mean, once you get to a certain size, I mean, I think it works no matter what. But as a business owner, you have employees, teams of management, you have people, you're dealing with a whole situation that most people don't deal with. There's a lot of pressure that comes on that, and there's a whole ecosystem of running a company where you have levels of leadership and you have management and teams and people and I mean, really, there's a responsibility as a business owner when you have an employee that decides to hitch their life to your wagon, per se, and say, okay, I'm gonna jump on your team. Just recently hired a guy. He shut down his home inspection company and to come join my team. It's so humbling that he would close his business doors and come work for me. Because he said, I like what you guys are doing. What you doing is aligning who I want to be, and I can't get there on my own. I want to do it with you. And so something like that is a huge honor, but it's also a huge responsibility. This guy has a wife and kids, and they're all depending on me to perform at the highest level possible so that I can provide for an environment that he can perform at the highest level possible so that everybody can make the kind of money and resources and have the work-life balance that they want. Every business owner has that on their shoulders, and they got to think about those things. That's a weight that most people in the world don't carry. So,
Right.
It's like, so for me, I look at those guys because I am one of those guys and I've been one of those guys. And I say, I know the struggles that I had to deal with. And in my darkest hour, a few years ago, I went through the dark night of the soul, darkest hour of my life. And I didn't have anybody who reached out to help me. And I remember suffering in silence and crying out to God and anyone who would listen. And I realized I just didn't have somebody in place. I didn't have the friendships that are deep enough to stand with me in that darkest moment. And I thought, that's never going to happen again in my life. And I realized as entrepreneurs, when you rise to the top, it's a lonely life. Let's not make it lonely. Let's make it where you have a band of brothers who are in the same fight with you that understand what that's like. And when you're going through your really dark time, you can't go to your employees and say, things are terrible, I can't, and high pressure. No, that's going to freak out your team. So where do you go? You got to have somebody that you can rely on. And so that's kind of a mission of mine, is to kind of create this environment where like-minded men, and maybe it'll expand into women at some point in time. I'm not against that. I know what I know. And so I'm trying to create this band of brothers to come together and help each other out. And let's fight our demons. Let's fight our monsters. Let's get our head right. Let's level up and let's do it all together.
Yeah, what an amazing mission, Matt. I applaud that. I don't think I have the energy to put together a group of that, because it does take a ton of energy from you. And it takes an incredible amount of focus. And I really hope that your 3-day workshop this December, I think you said, in Scottsdale, is going to be hugely successful, and that it launches many, many more, because there's literally thousands of leaders out there that need a peer group, that don't have one. And I think it's lonely at the top is only true if you let it be true.
Yep.
And I agree with you. There's a movement that says you have to be vulnerable with your troops, with your employees. Yes.
To a
But
point.
it doesn't mean you need to spill your guts to them in a way that's going to freak them out, and is not going to serve the purpose of you establishing yourself as a solid leader. It, in fact, shakes their confidence in the future of the company.
It does.
So people tend to isolate themselves. I had an interesting conversation with somebody from the Navy recently that talked about the stress on a ship captain, because at least if you're in a land-based military force, you have other commanders that are at your level that you can commiserate with. But a ship's captain is out there by themselves as a leader.
Right.
Every single person on that boat reports to them. And so they don't have a peer group. So, the ability to create an artificial peer group to give you an outlet to struggle openly with those demons that are chasing you around, and sometimes it's something mundane. It is not a deep demon, but it's just something I can't figure this out, and I don't want to ask my troops about it because it'll be embarrassing. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
So creating a space, creating an environment for people to thrive is a hell of a calling, man. That's great.
Yeah, well, thanks.
So there's obviously a huge need for coaching in the world. How do you draw people to your coaching?
That's a great question, and I would love to be able to tell you that. I'm part of in the home inspection industry, there's mastermind groups within the industry. I'm part of, in what is my opinion, definitely the best, and it might be the biggest mastermind group within the home inspection industry. It's called Inspection Empire Builder, and so IEB. And so IEBcoaching.com I'm part of that group, and I'm one of the leaders in that group now, and so that has been a source of relationship building that's helped me, and I've helped others, and that is now launching into other opportunities. I spoke at their conference last year, and that opened up the door for additional speaking from other companies and other things. And so that just has kind of been word of mouth, just kind of happening. And I figured, well, if it's kind of coming to me without trying, what if I tried? And so this is my season of really pushing on that right now to see, what can I do? How can I build this out more? And so you're kind of catching me on the very, very front end of me kind of launching this more officially rather than just letting it kind of organically happen.
It's a big step. That when you open up the marketing floodgates, then you have to be prepared for catastrophic success, and I wish that upon you.
I thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I been working actually very diligently behind the scenes, building out the infrastructure because I realized this is where I'm headed, and so building out systems, processes, infrastructure to be able to hopefully support business coming in through this. I just hired a full-time employee who starts tomorrow, actually, and they're going to be helping with marketing and exposure and brand awareness, and so I'll have somebody working with me 40 hours a week on this, and so I'm launching my coaching business as we speak in this moment.
That's amazing. There's a whole thing that changes when you start bringing together a team to build that. And as you well know, because you've had many employees in the past.
Yep.
But what is there a moment that led you to say, okay, I'm going to start culling out some of these businesses that I own that don't fit my purpose? What was there a catalyst for that?
Yeah. Let's see. What was a catalyst? There was a few things, but there was definitely a kind of a moment, if you will. I was my marriage fell apart. I got divorced, and in that divorce, I kind of had to do some deep analytical thinking of like, who am I? What is congruent with me? What's Matt Williams, and what's in his core? And who is he as a person? And so a few years ago, when I went through the divorce, that caused me to really have to dive deep. I actually hired a therapist and thought, I gotta figure out what's going on inside of me. And that's when I realized I knew I had mind monsters that I was battling, but I really drove deep into that. And so every week for the last few years now, seeing my therapist, who is also an entrepreneurial coach, which is kind of wild, and he's really helped me understand a lot of things. So I've actually got, okay, what's congruent with who I am, what's incongruent with who I am. And when we line up with what's congruent with inside of us, life gets a lot easier. And the Bible says that his burden is easy, his yoke is light, when it talks about like your calling in life. And if your calling and what you're working on is just incongruent with who you are as a person, you're working 10 times harder to get, 1% of the results. Whereas when you're doing what you're designed to do, I feel like you work about 10% as hard as you used to and get 100% more results. And my inspection business is one of those businesses that I'm like, this is congruent with who I am. We're the market dominating leader in Albuquerque, and we're crushing it on that side. And then I realized like things are just coming to me for the whole mental health, entrepreneurship, coaching. I'm not even looking for it, and it's just coming to me. And I'm like, this feels very congruent with who I am and how I'm wired to be. Like you're saying, wow, it sounds like it's a big calling or a heavy load. It doesn't feel like it to me because, well, that kind of fits me. That fits who I am. And so when you find something that is congruent, I don't know, there's a moment you got to realize what's congruent, what's incongruent, and have the guts and have the tenacity to say, I don't care what it costs me. I'm going to get rid of everything that's incongruent.
That's amazing, and that's absolutely something that I coach with my high performance coaching side of it. Is being incredibly clear about who you are and where you're going.
Yes,
and not just where you're going, but who you're becoming. And if you think about who you were at 20, you were probably a different person at 30.
Yep.
But were you doing it on purpose? Right. Did you have a plan, or were you just allowing society, your family, your friends, the culture shape who you were? Are you doing something because you should? Mm-hmm. And is that your should, or is that somebody else's should?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if you think about that time between, sometimes it's somebody who's 18 to 25 or 20 to 30 or 30 to 40. If there's no purpose to it, if there's no deliberate attempt to become what you desire to become, then you're like a palm tree on the windward side of the island that's it's going to go sideways. So helping people find their clarity, mm-hmm. then about who they want to become, and then how do you do that deliberately?
Yeah. Well, and if your identity and who you are can be taken away from you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, who are you? Oh, I'm a home inspector, and I run this company, and I do a home inspection. You know what? Life is fragile. That can be taken away. Yeah. And if my business can be taken away, is that really my identity, or is that just what I do? Right. And I think so many times, especially as men, you're hanging out. What do you do for a living? They don't even say what you do for a living. They're like, what do you do? And it's like, well, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm a pilot. I'm a this. I'm a that. Well, all that can be taken away, and so. That isn't really your core identity. And I think once you understand your core identity and who you are actually in the inside, it helps shape what you're going to be doing and who you are on the outside. And you got to find that. And if you don't, otherwise I think other people can influence you and push you around. And I did. I think it all happens to us. But how do you find your core identity, who you are inside, that can't be taken away because it's the core of who you are?
Spot on. Okay, so areas of growth for you now. You're going to continue. Well, you're going to beta test your workshop, your retreat.
Yep.
And if that works out, there's going to be more of that. But what else? What else is on the horizon for you?
Well, so I'm running a podcast. It's called Empire State of Mind. So it's called Empire State of Mind, and it comes from the perspective of a home inspection company. But I bring in guests of other home service industries. So I have guys that have electrical or HVAC, or just because I have these connections in that space. Also real estate people and people in that industry. I recently had Tommy Mello from A1 Garage Door on the show, and guys who have been very successful in their space, right? So it does come from a home inspection perspective, but how do you take one company and leverage it to an empire that you're building out? And for me, so what I'm working on, so I have my home inspection company that's running very well, and it's doing very well for me. So now I'm taking that and I'm leveraging that into speaking and coaching, and on all my years of being a pastor of a church and standing on a stage and presenting to hundreds or thousands of people at a time, I can jump on stage anytime. It doesn't bother me, and all of my skills from that era of my life really translate over into this. And so my next season of life is keeping my inspection company kicking butt and taking names, which it's doing great, but then also launching another area where I can help other entrepreneurs kick butt, take names. I figure out their identity, who they are on their core, line their life up with it, kick back all the monsters that they're fighting against, and go be successful, be the best husband, the best father, the best employer, the best everything they can be in life.
It's an amazing calling, and I'm glad that you're on that path and that journey, because I sense that you're going to be incredibly successful at this endeavor as you have in the other areas of entrepreneurship that you've explored. But I think you're going to find this much more rewarding than any of the things that you've done before.
I hope so. I really feel like it is. It's more congruent with who I am.
Yeah, congruence is incredibly important. You have to be clear about who you are and then live in congruence with that. What is the best way for people to find you? How do they get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So my podcast, I mentioned that. My personal Instagram is probably the easiest, and that is the.matthew.williams. That's my Instagram handle. And I'll give you my cell phone number. You can call or text me on my cell phone number anytime you want to, 505-301-5784. People freak out that I give out my cell phone number everywhere that I go. They're like, why would you do that? Call me or text me. I'm dead serious. If I can ever help you with anything. I do get a lot of calls and a lot of texts, and if I don't respond, keep texting. I'll get you.
That's amazing. I agree that people can look at that and go, oh, that's absolutely crazy. Particularly right now during the election season, when I can't stop getting texts.
Oh, God. Yeah, all the political stuff.
I just keep going, stop, report junk, stop. But hopefully after November, that'll slow down a lot. But fantastic. Our guest today has been Matt Williams. He runs Duke City Inspections, but so much more. And you can get in contact with him, listen to his podcast, find him on Instagram, or you just heard his phone number. I hope you wrote it down. It's 505-301-5784. Text him and he will get back to you. Maybe not immediately, but he certainly will follow up. And if you don't hear right back, text him again. Matt, it's been wonderful having you. Thanks for being here and sharing your story.
Thanks, Bob. I enjoyed it.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Leader's Edge Hot Take Series. I hope you found today's insight meaningful, valuable, and that you're ready to put them into action. Now, if you enjoyed the episode and want to keep improving your leadership, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I post new content every week, packed with strategies, tips, and real-life examples to help you lead with impact. And remember, great leadership isn't just about guiding others, it's about continuously growing yourself. If you'd like to be considered as a guest for upcoming episodes, please go to 5eaglesleadership.com/interview to apply today. Keep pushing, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next episode. Be awesome.